Cornel West is a distinguished American philosopher, political activist, literary critic, and public intellectual, renowned for his insightful and often provocative examinations of race, democracy, culture, and philosophy. One of his foundational works, The American Evasion of Philosophy, a Genealogy of Pragmatism, originally published in 1989, explores the distinct trajectory of American philosophy in contrast to European traditions, and critiques the American intellectual climate's unique avoidance or evasion of philosophy's deeper questions. This work stands out not only for its thorough historical and philosophical scholarship, but also for its critical engagement with American culture and politics through the lens of pragmatism, a philosophical tradition that West locates at the heart of America's intellectual identity. Background on Cornel West. Before delving into the American evasion of philosophy, it is essential to understand West's background. Born in 1953, West is an interdisciplinary thinker drawing from the fields of philosophy, African American studies, theology, and cultural criticism. His scholarship often addresses issues of race, justice, and democracy, heavily influenced by pragmatism and existentialism. West's approach is rooted in a blend of rigorous academic philosophy and passionate social critique. His writings often call for a more engaged, democratic, and compassionate public discourse, and the American evasion of philosophy is an early example of these concerns. It challenges the American philosophical establishment and cultural mindset for sidelining difficult metaphysical and ethical inquiries. The central thesis: what is the American evasion of philosophy? West's book examines a peculiarity in American intellectual history, a tendency to sidestep or evade certain philosophical problems and questions, especially those tied to metaphysics, like ontology and absolute truth claims. The evasion refers to how American intellectual culture has largely rejected or downplayed the importance of traditional philosophical inquiry in favor of more pragmatic, instrumental, and politically expedient approaches. This evasion is not presented merely as ignorance or oversight, but as a historically rooted pattern reflecting the nation's unique social, political, and cultural conditions. The Genealogy of Pragmatism. West traces this evasion through the genealogy of American pragmatism, a major philosophical movement that emerged in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Pragmatism as a philosophy emphasizes the practical consequences of beliefs and ideas as the primary criteria for their meaning and truth. Instead of abstract metaphysical speculation, pragmatists focus on how concepts work in everyday life and how they contribute to human flourishing and social progress. Key figures in this tradition, Charles Sanders Peirce, William James, and John Dewey, play a significant role in West's analysis. He examines how pragmatism, while innovative and influential, contributed to an intellectual climate that avoids grappling with absolute or transcendent philosophical claims, favoring instead flexible, instrumental reasoning. The critique of pragmatism's limits. West offers a nuanced critique. Pragmatism's strengths lie in its democratic ethos and responsiveness to real-world problems, but its dominance also leads to a form of intellectual evasion. By focusing primarily on utility, effectiveness, and social utility, pragmatism tends to bypass deeper ontological and existential questions that remain vital to a full understanding of human experience. In other words, while pragmatism encourages action and practical problem solving, it can also lead to a kind of philosophical complacency. It avoids dealing with the enduring tensions around truth, meaning, and moral absolutes, which West believes are necessary for serious philosophical inquiry. The historical and cultural context of evasion. West situates the American evasion within broader cultural and historical contexts. The United States, as a relatively young and pragmatic nation, has had to wrestle with practical matters of survival, democracy, and national identity. This emphasis on action and utility shaped its intellectual life, favoring empirical and instrumental metaphysical speculation. Moreover, West explores how American political culture, including its emphasis on individualism and democracy, fostered skepticism toward abstract philosophical systems perceived as European or elitist. This cultural suspicion of grand and theoretical frameworks contributed to the evasion. The role of race and social justice. Though the American evasion of philosophy primarily focuses on philosophical history and pragmatism, it also foreshadows themes that will become central to West's later work, particularly regarding race, justice, and social critique. West suggests that this evasion of philosophy is not neutral, but tied to the avoidance of addressing foundational social injustices. The reluctance to confront metaphysical and ethical questions about truth and justice can correlate with a failure to grapple honestly with issues such as racism, inequality, and oppression in American society. For West, genuine philosophical engagement must include a commitment to social justice and truth-telling, especially about racial injustices that persist in American democracy. Reclaiming philosophy. West's call to engagement. A major contribution of the American evasion of philosophy is West's call for a renewed and robust engagement with philosophy in America. He urges philosophers and intellectuals to confront difficult questions about truth, meaning, and justice head-on, resisting the temptation to reduce philosophy to mere practicality or ideological convenience. West champions a philosophy that is both intellectually rigorous and socially engaged, a philosophy that challenges dominant narratives, confronts injustice, and revitalizes democratic culture. This vision aligns with West's broader commitment to what he calls prophetic pragmatism, a mode of thought that combines the practical and democratic ethos of pragmatism with a passionate concern for ethics, justice, and truth. Impact and legacy of the American evasion of philosophy. Since its publication, the American evasion of philosophy has been influential in American philosophy and intellectual history. It opened important debates about the nature of American thought, pragmatism, and the responsibilities of philosophy. The book helped establish West as a critical voice in philosophy who bridges analytic and continental traditions while integrating African American intellectual perspectives. It also anticipated his later, more public-facing work on race, democracy, and culture, blending philosophy with political activism. Summary of key themes. Evasion as a historical cultural pattern. American intellectual life has tended to avoid metaphysical and absolute philosophical questions. Pragmatism as both cause and symptom. While pragmatism offers a democratic, practical approach, it also contributes to philosophical evasion by focusing on utility over absolute truths. Critique of intellectual complacency. West challenges the tendency to avoid tough questions about truth, justice, and meaning. Connection to social justice. Evasion of philosophy relates to broader social evasion, particularly about race and injustice. Call for prophetic pragmatism. West advocates a philosophy that is both practical and ethically engaged, aimed at democratic renewal and social justice. Conclusion. The American evasion of philosophy remains a vital text for understanding American intellectual culture and the philosophical tradition of pragmatism. Cornel West's historical analysis, critique, and vision call for a more courageous and socially responsible philosophy that refuses to evade difficult questions. West's work challenges philosophers and citizens alike to re-engage with philosophy as a means to deepen democracy, confront injustice, and recover a richer understanding of truth and meaning. In this, the book continues to resonate deeply in contemporary discussions of philosophy, culture, and politics in America.